Hi, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. If you're in America, which I am.
Happy
Americans are like really into Thanksgiving.
It's
In
like a bad
Canada, people
Christmas.
don't care. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I've never really cared that much about Thanksgiving. I don't like turkey. I don't really like potatoes. I definitely don't like, let's see, sweet potatoes. What other Thanksgiving foods?
Pumpkin. The obsession with Americans, and I just don't get it.
I don't get it either.
No.
It's a day. I guess, I mean, it's obviously an excuse for but they all take off early and then it's like a full, like, I think they make it like a 4-5 day holiday in America just before Christmas.
You know what's good about it though?
What?
It's secular.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's a secular excuse to not work and gorge oneself. I mean, I'm not against it. It's nice to get families together. I just can't really relate. And yeah, in Canada, we do it in October, and it's really not a big deal.
What are you thankful for in Canada?
I'm not thankful for Canada. I'm thankful to not be in Canada. Thanks. Thank you to the Thanksgiving God for freeing me from Canada. I'm in San Francisco, which is probably the worst city in America. Still better than Canada.
I reckon Portland's worse.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I
Yeah.
think Portland is worse. I went to visit the Substack offices yesterday to meet some of those guys. There was like 3 people in the office because everyone had left for Thanksgiving, but it was those guys are the best.
Wow, that's a treat.
Yeah, it's amazing. It made me feel like between Twitter and Elon's takeover, which has been magical every single day.
Well done for getting back on. Before he does the amnesty, like you get to make it it's a special one just for you.
Yeah, a special one just for me. The rest of you will get back next week, but
yeah.
It was, I mean, I was overwhelmed with emotion. I didn't know what to do with myself.
Oh, your first tweet was epic. It was so good. It was such a great, dry, wonderful, perfect tweet.
The opportunity to troll that horrid woman was, I mean, it brought me so much joy.
Good.
And just in general, all the trolling and the gloating, it's really been so joyful.
Do you think about, like, because I think about this sometimes, how much money you've probably lost from being off Twitter for the last 4 years?
Oh, I mean, I think a lot. Not that I think that I would be wealthy, but I'm so far from wealthy and struggle so much. And just like the difference in audience, which of course translates to a difference in things like subscribers and donations and income, is massive. Like there's no other platform that you can do what you can do with Twitter, especially as like a writer, independent podcaster, etc. I mean, just the reach. You cannot reach that many people. You can't reach nearly that many people on Facebook or even on Instagram, because the sharing just doesn't function in the same way. And there's just it was just so punitive, particularly I think to women like me and to you who are working alone and independently for the most part.
They got rid of me about 3 weeks before my billboard went up.
Oh, really?
Mm.
So when did they ban you?
August 2018.
Oh, you were banned before me. I was banned, I think, in November 2018.
Yeah, if you weren't so wrapped up in yourself, Megan.
I was busy tweeting. I didn't notice.
Twitter's so fun. It's so fun in September.
A lovely month for tweeting.
But yeah, they got rid of me, so I couldn't capitalize even on the billboard. I mean, I think I've done, and as have you, really well without it. Had to be much more inventive, and I think in many ways it really focused my mind into what needed to be done. But so in some ways it did me a favor, but it's totally made me have to work with both hands tied behind my back, as have you.
Yeah, it's been incredibly frustrating. Yeah, I mean, because I was banned from Twitter, that's what forced me to start a YouTube channel. I wasn't doing anything on YouTube really.
Mm,
Um, and obviously it forced me to, well, I mean, it forced me to use other social media, which I don't necessarily think is a good thing, but I think it's a good thing to branch out because I mean, I was so dependent on Twitter. Wasn't really using Instagram. I was barely using Facebook.
mm,
I wasn't using YouTube, and then Twitter disappears, and I was like, and I had to build up from nothing. Like I had to grow audiences again from nothing, which I guess that's a good thing too, because you're like, okay, I can, like,
mm.
I do have an audience, and I can build from nothing. And it's, there were so many people who I think are all the same people who are storming off now, but so many people on Twitter who seemed powerful because they had clout on Twitter, because they had a big following
Yeah,
on Twitter, and that's it.
yeah. I mean, there are certainly some people that used, I'm not going to name any of them, but there are certainly some women who fabricated kind of virally type situations in order to exploit them. And now they've got like
Yeah.
100,000 followers or whatever. Um, and respect. I think that some of them are falling on their swords now or are being found out. But yeah, this weird equation of the more followers you got, the more right the things that you say are, I can't even speak. The more important the things that you say is are.
Yeah, and that, like, I mean, they didn't necessarily have anything, they didn't have any talent outside this Twitter power. They
Mm,
didn't have any other real, skill or insight to offer, but they had a large following, so their tweets would get, like a
mm,
1,000 retweets or more, and it it so manipulates public perception. And
mm.
now all of a sudden, I suppose they're losing that false power and freaking out, and it's so great to watch.
It's so cool. I'm not even on Twitter. I have like a really hidden account that's never so since I got banned after about 2 years, it started being that you couldn't just go and have a look at Twitter. After like a little bit of scrolling, it was saying, "What's your account?" So I
Yeah.
could either log into my old account, which must have blocked people or they blocked me, so I couldn't see. And so I just did a tiny account, and I could only do that about 12 months ago. Before that, I couldn't even do that. But that account's never tweeted, never interacted with anyone. It's just a, can I have a look? Because I know what I do. If I had soccer accounts, I'd reveal myself in about 3 tweets.
Yeah, it's impossible not to, because
Yeah.
like, our voices are recognizable. But, yeah, I noticed that too, because you used to be able to look at Twitter, and then if you didn't have an account, you couldn't even scroll down.
No.
So you were really locked out. Um,
And I could
but
never have seen all the nice things said about me.
wasn't that nice? Yeah,
Oh.
even before I got back on, I was like having so much fun watching Elon Musk trolling everyone and watching all these petulant children. I mean, it's so amusing. It's amusing on many levels, but it was amusing to me because I feel like we tried to warn these people, like, your power isn't permanent. You
Yeah.
want to censor us, or, anyone who is politically or ideologically opposed to you, but why are you so certain that all of a sudden someone else won't be in power, and then you won't be in charge anymore? Maybe those tables will turn against you.
Mm,
And they haven't even. It's not like their free speech is being limited, but that could happen.
mm,
What if Twitter was bought by some, like, right winger who decided that they didn't want any left wing opinions on there? And they're so stupid and short sighted and self absorbed and narcissistic that they couldn't even imagine that ever happening. And
mm,
now they're just upset that their power is being challenged and that their opinions are
yeah.
being challenged, and they cannot believe it.
I don't think, I mean, when it comes to the idiocy of not supporting free speech, I mean, we both know that they're not the only ones. I really don't understand the logic in trying to censor anybody's speech I don't understand the logic of guilt by association. I've read your essays. I think they're great. There's a little rabid obsessive group on Facebook. They're not fans of your essays. They're not fans. They've said some really mean things.
Oh, right. I'm glad that I'm not in that group. I probably was kicked out. I don't know what group it was, but it was probably a group that
You've never had some sort of bizarre lobotomy replaced with some sort of obsessive gene, which is basically what's happened to these women. They are the most kind of, the girls at school where they'd get in such a kind of nasty, they'd said such awful things about you when you were like off for a day. And then everybody sort of said mean things. And then you come back in the room and everyone's like, just can't believe that you dare come back to school. It's like that. I mean, I do read their stuff now to be highly amused. Because I just think, even if you thought those things, don't say it publicly so everyone else can see who you are. Or if you're going to criticize some of the things that I do or you do, at least say some other things so that you don't just look really mean or jealous or spiteful. I got really badly criticized, as well, we both did, for Austin. Although I totally blame you.
For hiring, what did we hire? Like white supremacist.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We hired the KKK to protect us because we agree with KKK politics. Yeah.
Well, look, we did both say to them, just leave the white hat, boys. Just leave the hats behind. Just go with the cowboy.
Yeah.
We know you like J.K. Rowling, but not the wizard's hat. Not the
Yeah, I mean, there's this one woman on Twitter who is obsessed with monitoring my Patreon subscribers and then making fun of how few Patreon subscribers I have. And I'm like, is this what is it that you want? Do you want me to be broke? Obviously I'm doing okay. Obviously I'm not wealthy, but these are the exact same women who insist that I am doing what I'm doing for money, but then at the same time they're making fun of me for not making very much money.
That's so mean. They're really mean, and I can only imagine that there's some WhatsApp groups where they're all winding each other up.
Yeah.
So that they feel okay to say these things in public.
I
mean, I can't imagine trying to make myself look so bad in front of everybody. I'm sure there's some things that both you and I could say about a bunch of people, but I wouldn't say it here on air right now, so everyone could go, well, that was a bit mean. And it's just, it's just funny.
There's so many mean things that we could say about all kinds of people. I'm obviously not that nice. But yeah, I'm able to, why would I go in public and say mean, bitchy, petty things about other women? And the fact that so many of those people sort of succumb to that base urge to be like, and she's getting old and she's poor.
I know. And there was one rumor, I've talked about this before, but there was one rumor that was in that particular Facebook group, and somebody put on Mumsnet that I met my husband when I was in an elite boarding school in Hong Kong, paid for by my grandparents, and my husband was married, and I took him from his wife.
Goodness gracious. What an exciting story.
My grandparents all died in council houses. They never had a penny between them. Not one of my grandparents just about afforded a foreign holiday, and that was going on a coach. That wasn't even flying abroad. And and it's a given. It's an absolute given. I was on Femsplainers the other day, and she said to me, "You really will talk to anyone?" I was like, I absolutely will. And she said, something about David Duke and Richard Spencer. I was like, I've never talked to those men. But there's a Wikipedia page, I think, that says it.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, the Wikipedia.
David Duke, he literally is the head of the KKK, isn't he?
I don't yeah, I don't I mean, I don't
It's
I'm
definitely
not even
something.
familiar with these people, which is funny because I'm in bed with them every night. But,
Yeah,
like,
it must get a bit
all of the
tiring.
people that they associate us with, and that they associate me I think they mix me and you up, and so they mix up the libel against you and use it against me, so, me and Tommy Robinson Robertson, um, like, all these people that I just, like, I've never even paid attention to,
They
but
do though. They're also obsessed with them.
yeah, I guess
So
so.
I had an event in Brighton, which now have obviously the police have asked for me to go to an interview. So for non-Brits, basically the police can invite you to a voluntary interview, and it's basically all they want to do is entrap you. So they want to goad you until you say something that is criminal.
Oh, is
Um,
that what it is? Okay, okay,
yeah.
okay, so I watched your live stream where you had this woman on the phone with you
Mhm.
asking you to come in for an interview, and I
Yeah.
was confused about that because they wouldn't tell you that you had committed a crime.
No.
They wouldn't tell you. They wanted you to voluntarily come in for an interview, and I was like,
Mm,
"I don't understand this at all. Why would you
mm,
voluntarily come in for an interview when you didn't commit a crime?"
mm. Well, I have done it twice before, so this is not my first rodeo. Um, the first time I did it was at the behest of Susie Green for she'd reported me for 6 tweets. So I did go, because at that point I was quite new to any sort of activism, and I thought that police texting me was a bit of a joke. And so I did go. I had a lovely solicitor. He actually passed away in lockdown. But I had this very posh solicitor who wrote a prepared statement, and I just said no comment all the way through the questions. And then Susie Green reported me again for 2 comments on YouTube, and I went along to the police station, knowing that they weren't going to charge me because there was nothing to say. And I did the interview. And this time, because of where I'm at in my sort of whole activism, it is the most fruitful thing I can do with all of this is let them come. Let them do it. Let them, I'd be happy to be charged. I'd be happy to go in a court. And then I'd be happy to even be found guilty of contempt of court for the crime of misgendering. Right. I feel like it needs to be, I'm not at all afraid of any of the potential consequences, because I think that this fight needs something like this, where it is a real, you know, I've talked to my kids about it. That like my youngest son is like, "Mum, I really don't want you to get arrested." And I'm like, "Look, this is why we do it, and this is what will happen, and this is uh, this is what's going on here." I mean, we have to remember, in light of these men getting taken very seriously for these, like, for women saying bad words, we have to remember that there are literally women in this country who have lost their lives whilst being told they're a nuisance for reporting actual stalking, dangerous men stalking them, and the police say it's a waste of time. And yet these men can just report like hurty feelings and they're taken seriously. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's over and over and over and over again, the constant stories in the news about women murdered by men who they reported to the police over
Mm,
and over and over and over again, and the police told them they couldn't do anything because, like, they basically won't do anything until you're dead. Like, they
mm.
won't do anything until there's, like, a physical attack.
And
If
even then, there's
somebody's
no
just
justice.
stalking you, they don't do anything. If
No.
somebody's threatening you, they don't do anything.
Well, ladies, my advice from now on is to say they're stalking you and calling you, misgendering you, and you actually identify as non-binary. They keep following you saying she. Maybe do that. Teeps, thank you very much in the comments, who says, I'm on your page, wiki page, and I'm going to edit it. Thank you. Legend is the word you're looking for.
Correction. So do you think that they will show up at your house?
I don't know, because it'll be Wiltshire police that will have to come. In fact, there's a local Conservative Party dinner with the PCC tomorrow night, so I might get a very late ticket and go and meet him.
The
But
PCC?
is a police and crimes commissioner. So it's an elected official who oversees the police. And it's basically supposed to be the accountability. So the police's accountability to the public via this particular figure, because once you have, once somebody is elected, then they want to be re-elected, and therefore they want to make sure that the public are happy with what the police are doing. I don't necessarily think it's a very good direction, but and I wonder if that's where the woke stuff's come from, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose charges and arrests are the things that sort of force a decision, because they either are forced to say that it's illegal to acknowledge biological sex, that it's illegal to call a man, or they don't, and then we know that what we're saying isn't actually hate speech or a crime. And
I
if
just
they do say that, I mean, Lord.
I think you and I are both on the same page on a lot of these sort of freedom issues. So whether it's the right to have or not have a vaccination, or the right to speak, and the right to be heard, and the freedom of expression, I think you and I are quite similar about that. So the whole idea, somebody said, oh, they're trying to balance hate speech and free speech. I was like, those things don't go together, full stop. There's no such thing as free speech if you also have hate speech. That's a ridiculous idea.
Yeah, you can't have hate speech. You can have an opinion that something is hateful. People say hateful things all the time, but you can't make those things a crime. Otherwise, you don't have free speech. Yeah, I mean, I'm of the mind that anything goes unless it is an actual crime. Like unless it's, and I mean, I don't think these things do constitute speech, but things like child pornography, things like active intent to start a genocide or galvanize people to perpetrate actual literal violence, calls for violence or genocide, I suppose. And
Well, inciting violence is a very different thing, isn't it, to voicing. Like, if I could say, I'm going to have to be careful, otherwise someone will just grab it. I can say, I hate people with blonde hair. And that's not the same as, and I think they're sinful and they should be, they should repent. It's not the same as saying, I hate people with blonde hair. Why don't we go and beat some up?
yeah,
I think we all
I think
understand.
we should kill everyone with blonde hair.
Yeah. And I think pornography is harmful. So I don't think it should ever be put in the same category as freedom of expression, because I think actually it is harmful. And I think there are good arguments to show that it is harmful. And so I don't actually think that, I wonder if that does incite in some way. I was thinking about this, so that I'll ask you about this. Like, this is changing the subject a little bit, but I'll ask you about this. So we were talking about online gaming. I don't even know whether I was actually talking to someone, doing a live stream, talking to someone, or having a conversation. I think I was doing a live stream. And we got to the topic of, like, I'm frightened to go in the ocean still, because I like swim in the ocean, because I watched Jaws when I was like 8 or 9.
I know, that happened to me too.
Right. So that music and the impact of those images stay with me. So maybe the reason we are where we are is we have our first crop of adults that have spent an inordinate amount of time in virtual spaces in which they can put on a new skin.
Yeah.
They can become someone completely different. And I wonder if, because I then associate the ocean with Jaws and that music, and even if I put my arm in and get that white, when the sea goes white, that then can freak me out. I just wonder if there is some link between what is happening and this kind of this propensity to go right into gaming. Because they're also the nerds in tech, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's all the gaming and the big tech and the fetishes and the transing is all intertwined. They all appear to be, mentally ill, part of fetish communities. It's where all the trans seem to hang out, and they have all this power in big tech. Do you mean that, because they all grew up online and they spend all their time in virtual realities, essentially, that they're triggered by things outside of that, or things that
Maybe. I mean, they're not in control, are they? You're not in control of
okay.
everybody when you walk about your real life, but you are in control of an online gaming thing. But you can
Yeah,
also
okay.
modify everything
Yeah.
to suit what you want. So you can modify your body, you can become something other. And maybe if you spend so much time online that you maybe don't have very good social skills, so actually you're not flexing your social skill muscles elsewhere. I just don't think it can be without consequence. When I know that I'm definitely forever changed by like a movie. I mean, I was changed by Gremlins for ages about, I could just visualize that in my head. So
Yeah.
what if I
I'm
watch Gremlins on a loop for 2 years? Like, how much would that screw me up?
Yeah, it's very strange how people like to pretend that media is just entertainment. It doesn't impact you, because I do go in the ocean, but I won't go in the ocean if I can't like touch or see the bottom. Because I saw Jaws when I was young, and also I think it was like it was like a really cheesy horror movie. It was part of like Goosebumps or something like that. Anyway, it was these teenagers on a lake, and there's a big blob, and it comes up and sort of sucks them in, or it comes up through the dock, and the girl's naked, of course. You can see her breasts, and then the blob comes up through the dock and sort of sucks all her skin off. Anyway,
Uh,
so I'm basically I do still go into lakes, but I'm always terrified. Like, I'm always scared that something's gonna get me. And this is why I don't watch horror movies, because I'm like,
mm,
they stick in my brain and make me scared forever. But with regard to all of these people who are growing up online, I certainly think that you have so much control over what you experience and how people perceive you. I mean, you'll notice that if it's not like a cartoon anime avatar, these trans activists, their avatars don't look anything like usually how they look in person, because
mm,
they've filtered them and they've posed in a certain way and they have a
mm,
certain lighting. And then if you look at them in real life, they look much worse.
mm, mm, mm,
But these people can go online and pretend to be women. They can pretend to be anything they want. They can pretend to be cool. They can pretend to be funny. They can pretend to be social skills, and they have social skills. And then when they go out into real life, that doesn't translate. And they don't have this power. They don't have this popularity. No one's attracted to them. They're awkward to talk to. They're not funny. They're not interesting. They're mentally ill, depressed,
Well, they never
unattractive
pretend to be
weirdos.
funny because they're not funny at all, are they? They really aren't funny. They're the least.
True, the
They don't
trans
seem to have a
activists
sense
aren't
of
funny.
humor at all.
But I suppose I know other people who have invested all of their self-worth in their social media power and persona, who can seem to manage to try to seem like funny or cool online, but in real life they're very shy and awkward and
Mm,
not very compelling
yeah.
people, which is probably why they invest so much of their self-worth in social media.
Mm. I'm
But
the other way round. I'm so much more brilliant in real life.
you're great in both places.
Oh, thanks so much.
I think
You
I'm
don't have
better in
to
real life too. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in that. I think that people they develop this sense of control, and it's super triggering and upsetting to them when that control is broken, which is what's happening to all these people on Twitter right
Mm,
now, thinking that they'd gotten rid of us all, and they would be unchallenged.
mm.
Um,
And I think it's a Peterson thing. So Jordan Peterson talks about people tidying their own room, which everybody was quite facetious about, but he really means sort your own life out before you try and change the world. And I think these
right.
kids, their lives are so dysfunctional and impossible to make great that that's why they want to try and control everybody else and pretend that they're really nice people um, when they're not. And it's, these are if you can pretend to be a nice person by telling a load of old women that they're evil because they're saying that your mate who's taken estrogen for 2 months is not a woman, then you're a great person, right? Either you've frozen, Megan, or you're really still. I think Megan's frozen. I'll just, shall I wait for you? I'm going to text you. I'm going to text Megan and tell her that she's frozen. Welcome to my show. Have you guys frozen as well? If you're still in the chat, can you say hello and that you can still see me or okay. Right, Megan's gonna come back in. I just want to see what you guys think. What should I ask Megan? Quick. What should I ask Megan before she comes back in? Tell me something about her that I might not know.
Sorry,
And
hotel
hi.
me off, and I had to go back and re-sign in. I missed the end of what you were saying.
We were just in the comments. They were just saying awful things about you.
She's so old and poor.
Yeah, as soon as you went, they were like, "Oh God, not Megan! Oh, we just came for you."
I hate this channel. By the way, if anyone has questions, please use the super chat because I'm not able to keep up with the live chat. So if you have questions for Posey, we'll get into what happened in the US and New York in a bit.
Oh, are you marrying that boyfriend of yours? Someone said.
Me? Oh, no. I mean, I haven't been asked, but I'm just, we're just working on our communication as always. I'm obviously a very good communicator.
Yeah.
So it's always the other person that has to do the work in my relationships.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
Clearly. There was something else that I was going to say about what you were talking about in terms of people living in virtual reality and how nerdy they are. I mean, I don't know. It was so funny. I don't know if you saw this video. I tweeted it. Maybe you missed it.
Maybe.
But Libby Emmons covered it at the Post Millennial.
I love her. Let me just
I know,
say,
she's
I
so
love
great.
her. She's such a great writer and always like I love being on a panel with her, but I know that I'm always going to come up a little bit short because her cultural references and the way she puts stuff is just brilliant. Anyway, you carry on.
She's an excellent journalist and an excellent writer, and I so appreciate what she does. But she covered this story, which is essentially what we already knew, but to see it actually happening is so crazy. It's this trans woman who is a content moderator at Twitter who, yeah, and it's this guy who looks like he's in his late 40s or something with greasy gray hair, who's insisting that he's doing an interview on some news program, insisting that abuse is going to run rampant on the platform now. And as far as I'm aware, it's gotten better. This is what Elon Musk tweeted, is that like hate speech on the platform has gone down. He's obviously fired everybody and has this super pared down team so that he can start anew, which I think is great because it's clear that even after he came into power, people were still mucking around behind the scenes.
Yeah, I've been refused at my appeal about 4 times.
I was I filed another appeal once he bought the platform that was refused, and then I filed another one maybe a week and a half or so ago. Hey, little Emma, my dog's here. That was just ignored, and I got on because of Rogan.
Yeah,
And
well, it's not what you know.
The greatest man in the world. I actually believe that he is the greatest man in the world. But And it sounds like Elon Musk just tweeted today that he's just going to open it all up and let everybody who was suspended back on. So that's exciting. I hope that
I'm
actually
very
happens. It
excited.
sounds like it will. It's been so fun, Posey. I'm not trying to rub it in, but it's just it's just been so great. And but like I feel like everyone, I mean, I'm obviously in my own version of an internet bubble, like a sort of heterodox, anti-woke bubble, I suppose. I'm not following many of the wokes and the lefties anymore. But I feel like everybody's just so excited to be back and be able to speak freely. That is exciting.
I've got 60,000 tweets I need to clean.
I don't know. I just downloaded my archive because I want to because I think I've been on that platform since, I don't know, 2011 or 2012 or something like that. And I can only imagine. I know that I was extremely annoying then in terms of my like self-righteous feminisming and leftyism, but I bet it's even worse than I could imagine.
I think I swore a lot. I don't swear that much now online. I'm not
I've
saying
tried to stop because in real life I swear all the time. I have a horrible potty mouth, but I noticed that if you do it online, it just doesn't sound good. Like it makes you sound, I don't know, I mean, not classy. It distracts from your message.
I sometimes nearly do it in a text, and then I'm like, I'll just get rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look so great.
Yeah, it doesn't translate so well. I Yeah, so I think there was a tweet that I saw. I'm trying to not fall too deep into the Twitter rabbit hole now that I'm back on. Like I don't want to be on Twitter all the time. I don't want to when I look back at old tweets, I was like, God, I wasted so much time arguing, which is I don't want to do. Like I don't want to spend a bunch of energy arguing with people on social media. I think I'm a lot better at that now than I was 4 or 5 years ago. I don't do that on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. So I want to try to avoid that. I don't want to look petty. I've noticed that some people come back and right away they're just like, they seem so bitter and petty and they're picking on everyone. So I'm trying to not do that too much. But I did see one tweet today from this guy that was like part of my old friend circle. And of course, they all abandoned me and ostracized me and acted like I was this horrible pariah because I know what a woman is. And so I couldn't help target him. But I promised to stop after that. Because I saw a tweet in my feed saying Musk unblocking America's top turfs and provocateurs is like when the EPA inspector forces the Ghostbusters to shut down the protection grid and all the ghosts and ghouls invade NYC. And then this girl who I used to be friends with responds, and candidates. And I just was like, I just couldn't resist being like, fuck you. So I sort of put them on blast, and my tweet
Have you
said,
got any
boo.
friends from before?
Yes, I have a lot of friends from high school. Like I still have friends that I've known since I was 13 years old.
But not feminist MA friends?
I don't think I'm friends with any of the feminists from Vancouver anymore or any of the real lefties. So it's like the friends that I made after high school, but in my 20s, I don't think I'm friends with any of those people anymore. But I still sort of have core friends that I've known for a really, really long time, and then newer friends that I've made while I was sort of, already doing this work. So, people who knew what I was about or were supportive. But I feel like most of the friends that I made around, like college, university time, which of course was when I was becoming more politicized in terms of feminism and left-wing politics, all those people very proudly abandoned me and talked shit about me.
So touching. Let me just switch off my heater because I'm roasting. Terribly hot in this office. Picking freezing in the UK.
Sorry, everyone. I've apparently developed allergies to being inside rooms, so I'm sort of like.
You're allergic to your dog. I mean, that can happen.
Oh God, I hope not. My sweet puppy. Yeah, I guess it could be. It seems like it happens in rooms that have I have allergies to dust and mold, so it seems like it happens in rooms with carpets where there's dust, but maybe it's a dog thing.
I told
Okay,
you,
so
I stayed in a place in Washington that smelled of biscuits. So
I mean, that sounds like a good thing, actually.
No. If you have a biscuit tin, so biscuit as in Canadian biscuits the same as our
Is
biscuits?
it a cookie?
Yeah, but it's a snappy cookie, right? That's what a biscuit is over here.
Okay.
So it's
Got
like
it.
a digestive, or it's a snappy biscuit. So you dip in cups, you dip in tea, or you just eat it if you've got manners. But anyway, at the bottom of it, so say you have a cookie jar and then you don't have cookies for a while, and then there's sort of crumbs at the bottom of the cookie jar that smell a bit. They're a bit like gone off cookies. That's what this because obviously I was trying to do things on a budget, to not spend too much money. And so we stayed in this place in Washington, and oh my God, it just smelled of gone off biscuits everywhere. It was carpet. It was
gross.
It's really gross.
Smelly hotels are the worst. Yeah, I'm staying in a really nice hotel in San Francisco because my boyfriend paid for it. As a true femme, because he has a better job than I do. My Patreon doesn't pay me enough, as this woman knows. Oh, the other thing that she tweeted at me was, she said, I wonder how much money, but she tagged me in the tweet. I wonder how much money Megan still owes to her lawyer for her last Twitter case. And I was like, bro, do you think I paid for any of that? I don't have a lawyer money. And what does that tweet even mean? Like, you're too broke to pay your lawyer? Ha ha. I was like, I wouldn't have done this case if I thought I was going to end up owing, 60 grand. Like, it was mostly pro bono, which was very kind of them, because the woman who took on this case is a very, very good, very, very well-known lawyer, Harmeet Dillon. I really hope I didn't get her name wrong, but she's great. But she's very well known. Like, she's a very expensive lawyer, and they did some fundraising that I sort of helped with in a very pathetic way, because I didn't have an audience anymore and I couldn't tweet it out, and I was only restarting on my platform, so I barely had access to any people. And the rest they all just did for free. Thank you. I mean, we lost, but still, thank you. They put so much work into that. And this woman is trying to mock me for she's imagining that I owe a bunch of money to a lawyer. Ha ha, you lost your case. Ha ha, you owe. But like, what the fuck is this? Is a feminist, of course.
Oh yeah, well, I've got terrible, there's a feminist that was sort of talking about the state of my hair, and loads of them criticize my looks all the time.
Really?
They talk about my looks. Yeah,
that's interesting.
They talk about
because you're so ugly. That's why.
I'm just so
you're famously unattractive.
I think they must look at me and think, what a terrible, terrible human with her lipstick and her terrible, ugly, ghastly face.
Yeah.
It's only happened my whole life. But these women, they talk about, I'm not allowed to make money from t-shirts, although other people who don't do activist stuff with the money that they make from t-shirts, they're all right to make money from t-shirts. It's just me. I'm also a millionaire. My husband's absolutely loaded, but at the same time, I'm grifting for what? So that with the 10 million I've got in the bank, I can put an extra £56 a week from. It's just, none of it makes sense. And I don't know why any of it is relevant. And the fact that none of it is relevant, because it doesn't really matter whether I'm a billionaire or whether I'm dirt poor. It's what I say and what I do that's important, not how much money that they think my husband might have in the bank, which, let me tell you, like everybody else with a mortgage, we're just 2 payments away from having to downsize. The same as everyone else. It's just nuts.
I mean,
or I'm proper rich.
Yeah. And I don't know why you would bother with all the grifting and the making however much money they think you're making off of t-shirts if you're wealthy.
There have been times where I thought, if I just had a spare £2,000, I'd rent a Lamborghini for the weekend, and I'd drive up outside of one of the meetings, like WP UK meetings, and I would get out of a Ferrari and I would just pretend it was t-shirt money. Bought it. I'd be like, yes, it's mine.
Can you imagine
Lamborghini.
buying a Lamborghini with t-shirt money?
It's so gonna happen just because I never lose. I just would like the most garish, like voluminous, like fluorescent green Lamborghini with some kind of personalized tacky number plate, and it would just be so great. I'd just drive up to Philia or somewhere where I knew most of the women who really don't like me were going to be, and I would rev the engine. I would get out and I go, "Thanks, t-shirts."
Oh, I can't wait.
So if anyone's got a Lamborghini they'd like to lend me for a weekend, it's got to be a Lamborghini as well because they are my favorite.
Are they really? I think they're so ugly.
Oh,
But
I love
I'm
love
like I don't yeah. I don't like new vehicles. I would want like some kind of very expensive vintage
I want
car.
ostentatious, like
You want the most
just
obnoxious.
garish, ostentatious. Well, I've driven a Porsche 911, a Lamborghini
I would be terrified.
Diablo, and a Ferrari, and the Lamborghini is the easiest to drive and the most sexy. I'm
Okay.
properly well into my cars. Not that
I've mostly only ever driven my big old truck. So anytime I'm in like
right.
a small car that I don't have to like use my entire body to drive, I'm like, too responsive. This is too easy.
No, I like a car. Well, I did this track day, and I drove this car. And it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the guy said, "I've driven men all day, and you are by far the best driver I've had all week." He
Wow.
said, and it's because men get in those cars and they think they can just drive them without instruction. Whereas I was listening to everything he said. So by the third lap, I didn't need to listen anymore. And oh my God, I put my foot to the floor. It was just, oh, I love a car.
Save your pennies. I know you're well on your way.
T-shirts.
T-shirt money.
That's what you need to be the billboard. Buy me a Lamborghini. It might take us all 10 years.
You'll get there.
I'll be an old lady before it happens.
I mean, hopefully we'll have one by then.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that we're winning, which is a weird thing to say because I'm usually so pessimistic and cynical. But then I don't really know. The only reason I think we're winning because I think that people are so done and people are feeling galvanized to speak out because women like us did it for so long alone and took all the hits, and now Matt Walsh can do it, so people are like, oh look, all these like big famous men are doing it, I guess I can too.
Yeah, but he's doing it because nobody else has ever said anything.
No, I mean, we waited around on the
grateful.
sidelines until Matt Walsh said something, and then we decided to dip our toes in.
Yeah, Janice Raymond, who's she? I think she might need to write a book now that Matt has come out with something.
Yeah, I mean, she should have written a book if she wanted credit. She should have written a book back in like 1979. What was she doing? Sitting on the sidelines whining.
Honestly, Sheila Jeffries had just thought about this a bit more.
If only she were brave enough to tell the truth about the fetishes of these men.
She'd been some sort of religious trad wife.
Or married to a religious trad wife.
Oh, so great.
So, okay, so tell me what... Okay, wait, I actually wanted to finish that thought. Do you think we're winning? Because I feel like people are ready to fight. They're done. I feel like what's happened is these people have just pushed things way too far. And whereas before, people weren't paying attention or they didn't care because it was like, who cares? Let them do what they want. Why do you care so much about this? Why are you freaking out? Why do you need to control other people's lives? And they, of course, didn't listen to our arguments around legislation and women's spaces and sports and prisons and the sexism behind this whole ideology and so on and so forth. But now that they're seeing this is actually happening and these people are abusing their power and they're saying the quiet part out loud because they're narcissists and they can't help themselves, and they're starting to see that there's creepy sexual stuff behind all of this. The censorship has really pushed people. The sports, the prisons thing has really pushed people. The men and women's sports, men and women's prisons. These men parading around in fetish gear in schools and not being punished at all. So I think that, yeah, people are speaking out, people are done with it, people are fighting back. But then I think we still have the institutional capture, for example, in academia, in politics. And we still have, very, very powerful, wealthy industries like big pharma. And we have Twitter and we have Substack. I mean, we have Substack, and that Substack is truly committed to free speech, all free speech. The thing about Substack, sorry, I'm interrupting myself, but we'll come back to this. But when I was talking to this guy at Substack, who I've been in contact with, he was actually the one that brought this letter writing exchange to me with Julie. This was his idea, so I'm really glad for that. But they allow anything on Substack pretty much, unless it is illegal. I don't think that's come up yet. And I think that the wokes or the leftist arguments would have been, if you just let anything go, it'll turn into this toxic, abusive cesspool. But that hasn't happened on Substack at all. Substack is wonderful.
No. Well, also, if you start, so there are some places, as we both know, that are pretty awful because they do let anything go, like anything goes. But I think those places only become like that because other mainstream places have said, we won't allow even this level of rightness. Like, so if that's center, we won't even allow that much right stuff on the right. So therefore, in order to go and have your slightly right-wing views and talk about those sorts of things, and freedom somehow has become a right-wing thing because the left have given it up, then you end up with all of these men together with people who genuinely are pretty abhorrent. And there's no one to really counter because everyone's so ecstatic about the free speech element that nobody's arguing with the really extreme people on these platforms. It's a real losing the right wing from mainstream really is quite dangerous. So I'm just looking, by the way, Megan, because you've got some super chats. K Hots with $2 says only 100,000 more donations for this for a Lamborghini. Well, thanks. Megan's not going to buy one though. So you have to buy one for me, Megan.
No, I don't like Lamborghinis. I think they're ugly. Sorry. Laura also said,
that's why you should give it to me.
I really just like big old trucks, and motorcycles. Also old motorcycles. So Laura,
we can still be
friends. Thank you. Laura says, Ani DeFranco, this is a super chat. Ani DeFranco says, there's always a secret hatred for the prettiest girl in the room. You can't win whether you conform to the stereotype or not. I mean, yeah, a lot of it is, I mean, it sounds petty to even say this, but a lot of it is jealousy. But I think jealousy around platforms is a lot of it, like people who feel entitled to a bigger platform or to more attention or accolades or something. They feel like they're not getting what they deserve and then look towards other people and are like, why is she getting all of this attention? Why is she on Tucker Carlson? I would never go on Tucker Carlson. Like, maybe you would. Easy for you to say when nobody's asked you to come on.
Well, I just I don't know how, I do know how girls, like, I don't see these grown ass women any different to the girls that were mean to me at school. And like when I was at school, I was never a victim because I have a relatively healthy ego for whatever reason, whatever exchange that is, it's led me to this point of having a relatively healthy ego. But it's just, I can always see, like, when people speak to you, whether that's really high praise, if they don't know you very well, whether it's really high praise or really mean stuff, when they say that thing, they're basically just saying, let me tell you about myself. right? They're not really saying anything about you, Megan, when they talk about you being poor or not having enough patron, whatever. They're really talking about themselves every time they do it. And so I treat people that both say really lovely things about me and really mean things about me, who have never even had a conversation with me. I take them both as seriously as each other. And I really hope that I continue to do that, because it means, you know, I have a great deal of respect for your friend, your good friend, Julie Bindel. I think she's done some incredible work. I think she's great on TV. I think she really cuts through a lot of the bull all the time, which is why I don't really understand her issue with me. And I do think that every time she does say something publicly, which is just frankly bonkers, I think she just demeans herself and the work that she's done. And so if we depersonalize, because you won't be able to talk about it, but when and there's been quite a number of women, not all of them are on Twitter, but quite a number of women that have done some really solid, kind of evidence-based, solid work that any one of us could pick up and recognize as brilliant. And they just say this stuff about me, and I just think, what are you doing? What do you think you are doing when you start just randomly attacking me? Because all that happens is I look nicer because I don't randomly attack you. And it doesn't really matter whether what you say even has any validity, because you've done it too many times now that you just look mean.
Well, I suppose, I mean, the other thing is that all the people who trash you online, I mean, it just doesn't help anything. It doesn't help any cause. It doesn't help their cause. It doesn't help our cause. It doesn't help the kids who are being caught up in this ideology. It doesn't help the women who are having to share, you know, prison cells with men, or the women in shelters and transition houses who are forced to leave because they're asked to share a room with a man. It serves no purpose. So that's, I suppose, what I don't understand. Like, the motivation. What's the point of saying this? I suppose. I mean, I'm trying to think of what they would argue, not, you know, what what I actually think the purpose is. But I suppose they would say that it's because they think that it's dangerous for us to, or that we're bolstering right-wing arguments, I suppose. I suppose they would say, okay, so if we're working with the right, which I don't know that we actually are working with the right. I mean, nobody on the
I'll
right
take their
is
money.
paying me to
If they
do
offer it, I'll
anything.
take it.
Yeah, I'll take it too. I mean, I'll take money from anybody. But you know, I do panels with like conservative people, and I definitely do interviews with. I'll interview anybody that I find interesting. I don't really care where they land on the political spectrum. So maybe that's what they mean by doing media interviews, stuff like that.
But I only get interviewed by them. I don't interview. I don't do interviews.
Mhm.
Certainly not anymore. But I don't get. So any exchange with me and anyone on the right or whatever is either them listening to the words I say or asking me questions. I don't really understand, which is why it's not true. And there's no logic to it. I don't really understand how they can say that I am, I don't know, I am introducing people to the right, or that I am bolstering the right. I don't really understand how that would happen, because all I basically do is people listen to me speak. Like, oh my God, he heard me speak. He may change his mind about something. How how terrible of me. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I tell this story time again, and I'm going to very quickly. I went to the Heritage Foundation. I wasn't invited. I did go for lunch, and I did meet parents of children with RODG, GD, and it was one of the most harrowing things I've ever done, and which might say something about how harrowing my life has been. But listening to women talk about losing their daughters predominantly to this cult was just I just can't tell you how awful it was. And then I went and listened to this panel of there was one detransitioner man, and the rest of them were left-wing feminists, and two of them were lesbians, left-wing lesbian
Mhm.
radical feminists. And when one of the lesbian radical feminists who talked about being a lesbian finished her speech, there were tears in the mainly men, white men in the audience, and she got a standing ovation. So I think perhaps it's because I am, like I've said, I've got quite a healthy ego, but I like to think that in an exchange where I speak, I have more of a chance of convincing anybody that I'm right. And so I don't see what harm it ever is to me to even engage, let alone just speak at, but to engage with people with totally opposing points of view.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think that a lot of it could be just envy and jealousy. Um, and then I
Yeah,
think
well, who am I?
it's
But
I
but so, like in their eyes, who am I? I'm some stay-at-home mother.
yeah,
You
what
know,
have you
if
ever done? What have you done to
yeah,
deserve
what have I ever done?
anybody
And then I just come along and
listening
I
to
think
you?
I can do this. Yeah, and
Yeah.
not only do I think I can do it, I can do it, and I
Yeah.
can do it to a really good. I think the let women speak, and listening to other women's voices. I think that is it's phenomenal, as you well know. And women just stand up and they're shaking, their hands are shaking, and they've never spoken before in public. And to just bear witness to their testimonies, I feel extraordinarily privileged that I've got anything to do with that at all. It really is. And then we go to the pub after on Saturday, and there's all different kinds of women sat with each other, laughing, sharing their experiences as women. And I mean, it's profoundly life affirming. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, providing a platform for women to speak who've never had a platform or an opportunity to speak is a really big deal. And I don't know why anyone would want to shut that down.
Hmm.
I just want to quickly say that if I get kicked off of the internet again, I'll come back. It seems like the hotel internet maybe like times me out or something. Um, but okay, so let's talk more about the US tour. I mean, I specifically wanted to talk about New York, but you might have some other things that you wanted to talk about as well. But New York seemed like the craziest, which I was kind of surprised at because I would have thought that, I mean, I guess you didn't end up going to Portland, so who knows what would have happened there.
No, they were so
But
well organized in New York as well. So well organized.
yeah, I mean, I was surprised because I guess, because we did a panel in New York and nothing happened at all. So I was like, oh, maybe people don't care that much about this in New York, or the trans activists aren't as organized, or Antifa doesn't have as much of a presence here. But clearly not the case. Who were these people? Do you know? Tell us what happened.
I think they're local Antifa. So, um, with the events, just to address some of the criticisms, I arrived as close to the start of the event as possible. I was late in Philadelphia because my brand new phone didn't work, no data, couldn't get it to work for about
Oh my
3 hours in the
God.
morning. So I had to put my old phone, which fortuitously I'd taken to America. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do the live stream at all. So I was like 15 minutes late for Philadelphia, but these are always like quite nice, organically starting like greeting events and so on. And then it goes like that. Anyway, so I arrived I was coming to the event in New York and it was really busy. So from my hotel, it said it was going to take like 30 to 40 minutes. And it took an hour and 15 minutes to get to the city hall. And the reason it took so long is because there were so many police. There were like 60 police officers. There were vans, there were cars, there were so many police. And I was like, what if this is for the Let Women Speak event? And I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. Something must have happened. And then I get there and this woman, beautiful, young, black-haired woman just comes to me and she goes, Posey, it's so nice to meet you. I called into Turf Talk Tuesday. You cannot go through that crowd. You cannot go to your event. Let's go and see the police and see if they can help you. So then I find this officer and he's like He's not in uniform, and he's got one of those earpieces. And I was just like, "Hi, it's my event. How do you know the best way to get in?" And he goes, "Oh, you want to get into the event? Come with me. Come with me." So I'm thinking, he's so helpful. He's going to show me a way so that I can get to my actual event. No, he said, "You want to go to your event?" I said, "Yeah." And he went, "No, I'm not going to help you." I was like, "Pardon?" He said, "No, I'm not going to help you. I'm not risking my men for you. No, I'm not going to do it." I was like, "Oh, okay, fine." So then I went down went down the street,
Did you have any
and then
private security for this event at all, or?
yeah, but I couldn't get hold of anyone, and I don't know how.
Okay.
I don't
I
know
mean, I don't
how,
think
even
that
if I
would have
was in
helped
the
you
middle.
anyway, because there was way too many people, but I was
No.
just wondering.
So once I understood the severity of the threat, I basically got hold of anyone that I could speak to. And it was a lovely young woman called Joy. And I was like, "Joy, I feel even if I could get in, if I come in, it will be like throwing gasoline on this fire. I just think it will the temperature will rise so quickly that people really, really will be in mortal danger." I really did. And I don't feel like that very often. I'm a bit kind of untouchable. So when I was in Chicago and there's people like right up against my face, it doesn't actually bother me. I'm fine with that. I'm really quite good at judging whether or not um there's a risk to me. And so Cyber Wonderlust is saying Karen Davis would have taken you in. I'm, with all due respect, I'm 5 foot 1 inch tall. I've got bright blonde hair. I am a known quantity. People know who I am. I just think if they were going to beat the shit out of somebody, excuse my language, but it would have been me. And then all hell breaks loose. And I just got to that point where I was like, why would I do that? Why would I risk myself or any of the other women by putting myself in that position? It's just, I just wasn't going to do it. And I don't think anybody
Well,
could have
just
kept me
and
safe.
I
Not
mean,
five
somebody
security
taking
blocks,
you in,
nothing.
what would that do? And how would I don't know who this Karen Davis person is, but how would this person have protected you from all of these activists? I don't
I
understand.
just, it's like, it's really difficult to describe, but my intuition is pretty good. And my intuition, once I saw how angry the mob were, and I've faced a few mobs in America and in this country. It was very different. It was very different. There was a palpable, not a few kids trying to show off to each other. There was a palpable hatred, and we saw women get assaulted,
Yeah,
and we saw
yeah.
what those men were prepared to shout at those women. Um, and I definitely think that New York is something I'd like to try again, because I think that the work that the women on the ground there did was incredible, and I feel really bad that I didn't actually go. And some people are like, "Why were you so late?" Well, I was so late because I don't go early so that the animosity can build before we've even bloody started talking. That's why.
So women were assaulted at that event.
Yeah,
What
Kat
happened?
Yang she's on a video, and this bloke calling himself a woman just grabs her hair like that and yanks her head right back.
God.
And people were spat at in Tacoma. We were spat at in Chicago, spat at in New York. You know, they're emboldened, but they need to be afraid because people are not going to take it for very much longer.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that I saw screaming were terrifying. The topless, I guess he's a model.
Well, maybe not anymore. I heard
Is
Coach
he
were going
gonna
to make
get
a statement.
canned? Oh, great.
I
Yeah, I
think
saw that
so.
they were getting pressured. Sorry. Um, I mean, that guy just was so full of rage and threatening to beat up women. There was were those the three topless people, were those all
One's a
men?
woman.
One's a
No, the
woman.
one with the hairy chest was a woman.
The blonde?
So she's a model as well. Yeah, the blonde, she's a
Oh,
woman.
weird.
She's
Interesting.
got scars.
Okay, I didn't see.
Mm.
Yeah, terrifying. So what did you all do instead?
Well, I went to Starbucks and then I gave a live stream in which I told everyone where I was on the live stream. And then it was like, that's not the best move ever.
Like,
And
come
then the
get me
woman
at
that's with me,
Starbucks. Like the
Yeah,
Starbucks staff are
Madeline,
gonna
she goes,
protect you.
"You just" I think it was my son actually. So I told my son where I was, and he came and met me. He's 20, and he came and met me. Goes, "Mum, you just told everyone where you are on the live stream." I was like, "Oh yeah,
Oh, God.
I better go." So we, Madeline's husband was in the car with her two of the cutest children ever. Really lovely. And we got in their car, and then my cameraman was on the way, and he was a bit late. And so then we drove sort of around the block until he was there, and then he got in the back of the car, and then I just went, and I just felt, I didn't even want to look at the live stream. I felt really afraid for the women. I just felt too bad to even watch. And my phone was crap. And it was, yeah, it was, I was absolutely gutted. I'm really glad there were cameras there to take the footage that they have. I think Melissa Cohen took the footage of him shouting like, "These hands don't discriminate. I'll beat your ass." So that's
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. But I went to make a documentary to put on record what women are having to deal with in this war on what it is to be a woman. And I think, oh my God, we've got it. I just can't think it's going to be anything than um, having a really good ability to peak the United States. And then we're going to
And
go and do the same in Canada.
yeah, we're coming to Canada. Hopefully, if we can afford it, we'll do Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Calgary.
Yeah. So if you're
Is there
well
anywhere else?
off,
Yeah, please consider
well, it's
donating.
just
Do
got
you
to
still
be.
have a So your fundraiser got shut down. So how are you collecting
I've
money
asked
now?
people to donate straight through Standing for Women. So they can
Okay.
just go on to the documentary. So it's standingforwomen.com/documentary. And then they can just donate into there because then they're not cheap. Um, it's a whack of money to the very talented cameraman documentary maker. And then it's also all the expenses. It's every hotel, every like bit of food.
Right,
I
security.
sort of was like,
Security's
yeah, I'll
expensive.
just do it. It'll just be that much money. And then like security in, I think Miami, I think that cost me about, was it Miami? Yeah. No, maybe it was Austin. No, Austin wasn't that expensive. Miami was about
Austin, we got a
$1,000.
deal because they were our KKK friends, remember? Those men were so nice, by the way. I just want to say that. Those
Except the white
security guys are
supremacist, which was the black guy. The black
the
guy who
black
was a
guy
white
with
supremacist.
dreads who BuzzFeed said was a white supremacist because he didn't want men in drag coming into kids' schools or libraries or whatever. How did the other
So
cities go?
mad.
How was Miami? So New York seemed like the craziest. Was that your last stop?
Yeah. So after Austin, where I saw you, so we
Yeah.
started in LA, we did Hollywood, then we did San Francisco. No, do we? Yeah. Then I did San Francisco. Then I did Tacoma. Then I did Austin. Then I did Chicago. That was full on. So in Chicago, the activists basically, just as we start to talk, they just come en masse and they're insane. There's this girl that's doing like, ooh, like this around your face, like this. As long as she's not touching you, she's doing this. And she had this siren. and she kept putting it near my ear, and I was stood right next to a police officer. So the police did come and sort of stand there, but they just basically said they can make you deaf as long as they don't punch you, it's fine. So they were allowed to come in right out and amongst us. And then the police officer was like, I don't want to have to separate you. And I was like, well, can you? Yeah, I just don't want to have to
You're
separate
like,
you.
that's
So I
what
was
I
like,
want.
please, can you separate us?
Yeah.
But this girl kept having this siren, and the police was right there. And then the policewoman did this, and I just grabbed the siren and just like put it on the floor and just stamped on it. And I was like, yeah, yeah. I was just so
Nice
quick. I
work.
was like a ninja. So that was good. We could hardly be heard. So that was interesting. And then and the women there were amazing. There was a young woman who's got sort of blonde and black hair who gave a really good shaky hand speech. She was brilliant. There was a girl in a thought criminal sweatshirt who just stood there the whole time. She's got like chaos all around her, and she's just stood on like in shot the whole time like this. Just so stoic and amazing. And I think she's a filmmaker. And so that was Chicago. Then where did I go? Then I went to Loudoun County. That was great.
We know. And Karen spoke in Chicago. Karen, who I've had on the stream several times here, who I love so much. Karen Toumage.
Yeah, so I met her and her husband, and I signed his hat. And yeah, we had a big lunch. I don't think Karen stayed, but it was so nice to meet her. I love her podcast.
She's awesome.
What else? Then I went to Loudoun, then I went to Miami, and then I did Washington. Miami was great. Miami, I had an armored Hummer, and a security guard who had guarded the president, as in the office of the president, not just the sitting president. And he was his ancestors were Buffalo soldiers, so he was like a super impressive military guy, and he was just so lovely. And I got used to being called ma'am and having doors open for me. There was something quite delicious about that. When I went to Loudoun County, I also did a talk. There was a woman, she was quite religious, but brilliant. She'd done a school board thing where she'd gone viral. And then I'm stood in front of her thing, and my camera guy's got a photo of me. And I'm stood in front of all these American flags. I look like I'm just about to announce my presidency. I'm just about to run. So that was great. So then there was Miami, then there was Washington. Washington was phenomenal in front of the Lincoln Memorial. So those massive steps, and then you've got the giant thing of Lincoln. And we had the Brighton camera crew, who are independent filmmakers. We had my guy. We had a couple of other independent cameras. So I think there might be more cameras than speakers. Not really. But that was great. That Kara Dansky organized that, and that was really well done. And the police were brilliant, and they made an arrest. And then Philadelphia, that was also really good. It was so Philadelphia. I mean, I've never been to Philadelphia before, but there was sort of a lot of plainclothes police in the pen. So we were like penned in, and then there were trans activists shouting, including a man who's about 6'5", black guy. He was like talking like that, going, I'm a woman, like this. And he couldn't have been more blokey if he tried, shouting, trans women are women. I was like, but come on. And there was a woman who was like, I will testify, man, that these people are bigots, and and Posey Parker, and like David Duke and Richard Spencer and all these other things that are on Wikipedia. And this guy was going, Tommy Robinson, she likes Tommy Robinson. I was thinking, you have no idea who that is. He could just make jam.
These people really have been paying attention to the internet.
It's so nuts. So it was, the idea was to make sure that people understood what the issues were and how women have been persecuted by this ideology, and what those women are, what ordinary women are willing to do in the face of this assault. And Oh my God. I mean, unless the documentary film guy suddenly has some sort of breakdown and he can't make a documentary like he's ever made before, I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Will it answer the question, what is a woman?
No, I don't know what to call it. I might call it I am a woman.
I know what a woman is. If
I don't
anyone
want to
has
do
any,
a rebuttal to Walshy. I don't want to do a rebuttal to him. This is
No, of
about,
course not.
it might just be, I don't know. I might make it really narcissistic, just Kellie-Jay's American tour. Just to
That would
really
work too.
annoy everyone.
Then
All
buy a
about me.
Lamborghini with all the money
Kellie-Jay's
that you make
tour.
off of it.
Yeah. Well,
If
we're going
anyone
to
has
release it for the other one.
What?
So I'll shut up.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if
I'm
anyone has any questions for Kellie-Jay, use the super chat, please, before we decide to log off, which we probably should do soon. I'm assuming it's late there. What time is it there?
It's all right. I'm wide awake. I'm not
Oh, you're
sleeping.
good?
I'm too
Okay,
excited
cool.
about it at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. We I can't remember what I was going to say. Something interesting,
So
devastating. Sorry.
Your Lamborghini
Sorry.
money. Do
Yeah,
you
I'm looking forward
think
to that.
that
Oh, we're going to release it for free. It's going to go out for free.
Oh,
It's going to go out for free. It's going out on my channel. Everybody can just come and steal slices of it and put it out. Whatever they think will do the best little, like, 2 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute, whatever they want, whatever they feel is the best way to convince people that they know of what is going on. That's what this is going to be about. It's really about, as much as you possibly can do, whatever you feel is the best way to convince anybody in your lives. So that's why it's not behind a paywall. I'm not trying to make a bomb. I just want to peak the world.
Well, I hope you succeed. So, do you feel like we're winning? What do you think about that?
I feel like more people are waking up to it, but then the more people that wake up, the more we find is the more captured we understand it is, and we understand there's much more to undo than I think we previously thought. I still think all you need is ordinary people, but look what happened in your lovely country of Canada when those like normal truckers staged a protest, and the next minute, even people that I like on this side of the debate were saying, well, they're far right, they're on the right. So there's a lot of unraveling to do.
It's so disappointing and frustrating, the amount of people who hated the truckers and said, they're white supremacists, they're dangerous, they're terrorists, when they so clearly were not. And that there was like no evidence of any of that happening. And people are just so not just willing to go along, but they seem enthusiastic about going along. I think that they're people who enjoy being enraged, or they enjoy being hateful. Like they want somebody to be angry at.
Or they're very happy to hate the working class, which I think is what it is.
Yeah,
this is a
a
war on
lot.
the
Yeah,
working
it's
class.
snobbery. It's like the elitists who think these people are too stupid to think for themselves, and that they need the elite to make that they need me, the elite, decisions on their behalf. Right? That's what it is in Vancouver, right? It's all these urban elites. I mean, it's the same thing in places like New York and Seattle and San Francisco, but it's all these overeducated, and by elite, I'm not talking about Bill Gates elite. I'm talking about like kind of middle upper class people with means whose politics are rooted in ideas, not in reality. And they're lacking.
Well, that happened with Brexit.
Right.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's okay.
That happened with Brexit. So I think Brexit was people feeling disenfranchised. Like whatever I thought about Brexit, I voted to remain. And then when I saw the idea that we were going to have a democratic vote and then not follow it, I was like, fine, I'll vote to leave then. because to me, the democratic process is more important than the result. Because if you don't trust the democratic process, you're a little bit screwed as a democracy. It kind of really doesn't go very well. So I would have voted to leave, definitely. And I didn't like the way that the European Union treated Greece. I didn't like the way that there was no democracy within the European Union. And so I already was like 50-50. And then basically on the day I voted to remain. But the majority of people that voted to leave were working class. Now, I may have just made that up, but it felt like a lot of the people that voted to leave were working class. And that's because they have felt powerless in this country for such a long time that this is their one access to a genuine kind of vote that would make a difference, a tangible difference to their lives. And then they were told they were thick and they were racist and they were xenophobic and they were too stupid to really understand what they were voting for. And so it's the same with the truckers. It's the same with
Trump.
aren't there farmers? Where are the farmers being persecuted? Is that somewhere like,
I can't remember.
is
I'm
it
sorry.
American farmers? I think it might be
No.
American farmers.
Really? I think I'm
There's,
thinking of something in Europe.
I think it might be the American farmers, and they've got to adhere to a certain set of stuff which is really bad for the soil, and they know that there's no longevity in this, and it's almost like they're being forced to sign up for something knowing it will kill the soil.
Mm.
And then they'll have to pump it full of chemicals or whatever. And there's other massive, like Bill Gates type companies, if not Bill Gates himself, buying up all of this land and making super farms. So I do think it's something to do with those, I think it's American farmers. So that would be, again, working people being put upon and being made to look stupid. Or the narrative is they're stupid and anti-environmentalist or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean,
Farmers
there
and
is an
truckers.
attack on farmers, and it's connected to this attack on meat and this drive to push like plant-based food and like lab-grown meat, because meat is bad for the environment, it's bad for climate change, it's bad. And like I'm no fan of factory farming, but the worst impact of all this stuff, it's the independent farmers and the ranchers who are under attack right now. I just want to quickly say before we continue that Chantal super chatted and said Kellie-Jay Gays Against Groomers is using donor box for donations.
Well, look, Megan, let's have a look at donor box, because I know that when we go to Canada, you're not so keen on outdoor events.
No, I don't love the outdoor events. I like to sit down and talk, but I like a more controlled setting. It's that I'm impressed that you're not afraid of these people, but I'm really scared of them. I think they're scary and dangerous. And so the idea of standing around in public spaces where I might get like shot or something thrown at me or punched or something like that isn't my most appealing setting for doing these kinds of things. But I do think that it's effective and great. It's a great idea. But I think that what we can do in Canada, hopefully, is to do some your outdoor Let Women Speak events and then organize some indoor ticketed panel
in the
events.
same town, so that
Yeah.
so the people
that
are already there.
Well, and also, there's different people who will come to those different kinds of events. Your
Yeah.
events, women want to come and speak. And then obviously women can speak at a panel event too, but I think we'll get a different crowd at those two events. And my favorite part about doing the panel events is always the Q&A, and that almost always at those kinds of events, women meet each other and they form groups and they start doing activism,
Yes.
which I think is really special and important.
I was able to do a panel event in a bar with booze after.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do that also. And yeah, I mean, we did our cocktail hour meet and greet in Austin, which was so fun and great. It was so nice to meet people face to face and chat in that kind of setting. And I don't think I ever told anybody, and I don't know if you did either, but we did this cocktail meet and greet thing after our panel in Austin, and the bartender was like, he was this huge Kellie-Jay fan, and so she walked in, and our organizer, Isabella Malbin, hadn't told him what the event was, of course, because we're always scared that we'll get banned for being TERFs, and they'll be like, nope, can't come here. But the complete opposite happened, and this guy was like, oh my God, I didn't know this was for you, and I'm such a big fan, and I'm so happy you're here. And he bought shots for everyone, and it was the best.
It was so nice. I don't even know what his connection was with any of this.
He
Like,
was
he
just
didn't
the
say.
bartender
He's very, very sweet.
at this place. Yeah.
But talking of being punched, when we did Philadelphia, my son was second cameraman. And because I didn't tell everybody that my kids were going to be there, because I just, my anyway, so my 20-year-old, he earns money so he could come out. So he came out for about 10 days, 2 weeks. And the cameraman basically said, do you want to do second camera? So he was like, yeah. So we were going to Philadelphia. So I said, right, do not speak, because you've got my face. So if somebody hears that you're English, they'll know you're my son. And it's one thing for people to attack me because I'm a tiny woman. So there's always going to be a little bit of hesitancy before someone punches me in the face.
It's a bad look.
I was like, they might not hesitate because you're a man, you're a young man, and they might decide that you deserve a kicking because I'm your mum. And then I said, and if I do get punched, you must not come anywhere near me. Like, you cannot protect me. You have to stay well away. I can take a punch. And he was like, I don't know that you can, Mum. I was like, I can definitely take a punch. It's fine. I can take a punch. It might really, really hurt. It might make me cry, but I can take a punch. And I really would like you to stay back. And then my cameraman, who's like 6'2", said, blah, my son's name, like, let's call him John. John, if I give you my camera, you hold it, you take it somewhere safe, and I'll protect your mom. I was like, yeah, you will.
Oh, that's very sweet. Your cameraman seemed like a very nice man.
Is
he American or he's from the UK?
No, he's American.
Okay.
From LA. Yeah, very nice.
Sorry, I'm sniffly, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, I have allergies. I just don't want people to think I'm gross. I mean, I guess it is kind of gross. There's nothing I can tell you to convince you that my runny nose isn't gross. So I think we're thinking, we've not gotten to the planning stages yet, but I think we're thinking about March, April to do some Canadian events, which, I mean, Canada is like so desperate for this kind of thing because people in Canada are just like, I mean, I was so angry back in 2017 when I testified at the Senate because nobody would say anything. And I was like, this bill's just going to get passed and nobody will have said anything. There will be no pushback on record. And now there is.
Jordan Peterson said something. I don't know if you said anything. Did you?
Where were the feminists?
Yeah, where were you?
I think I'm pretty sure it was just Jordan Peterson there. He made millions off of that.
Him and Matt Walsh.
He became a millionaire because he spoke out about his concerns around compelled speech, and nobody stuck up for the girls and women. I mean, like, but yeah, I mean, people like women have sort of started to organize in Canada finally in the past couple of years, which is great. But I mean, Trudeau doesn't care. The government does not give a single shit what women in Canada are saying and thinking. He's just.
Have you seen the pictures of Trudeau?
Yeah.
And Castro?
Yeah.
Do you know how you can most tell whether or not somebody looks like someone?
How?
You turn the photographs upside down, and then what your eyes don't do is they don't fill in the blanks. So, for example, when babies are on passports it used to be that you put a baby on a passport with a parent. Now they have their own passports. But in order to see whether or not that baby is related to either one of those parents, they turn all the passports upside down, all the photographs upside down, because then you can you know, like if you see my daughter, she looks really, really a lot like my husband, but you might kind of, you might change with your own eyes, you might fill in the blanks of why she might look like me. Whereas if you turn both of those things upside down, it doesn't, your brain doesn't trick you.
Huh.
And he looks just like Castro. Like,
That's
not even,
interesting.
it's not even a fun conspiracy. It's a, how can he not be the son of Castro? How
That's
can he not
interesting. I
be?
haven't looked into it that closely because I just
It sounds nuts, but they were friends.
yeah.
His parents and Castro were friends.
I mean, I feel like so many conspiracy theories turned out to be true that now I think I'm just going to have to accept my conspiracy theory status because there's so much truth in most of it. Not all of it. I mean, I'm still not on board with the lizard people thing, but who knows what the future holds.
Well, if we pretended the lizard people weren't as much lizards as he says, but yeah, if we maybe thought that it was a symbol, then I could get it, but saying that they're actual lizards. So 2023 Easter is the beginning of April, so we could do it in April because we
Yeah,
could do
April
it
would be
sort of
good.
from the second, third week.
It'll give us some planning time, and I'm not going to fucking Canada in the winter.
No, and I might do Australia in March.
Oh, great. Okay.
Mm.
That'll be nice. Yeah, April sounds great. Anyway, we'll keep everybody updated. Do you have anything else you want to talk about, or should we sign off?
I'm going to ask you some questions. What has been the most surprising thing about your exchange, your letter exchange with Bindle?
I mean, I found it really productive. I really appreciate the conversation. I love Julie. I've known her for a long time. I have so much respect for her work. She has a great sense of humor, which I really appreciate. I cannot deal with people who are over serious and who take themselves too seriously. It's one of my least favorite qualities in a person who doesn't have a sense of humor. I suppose I haven't read her letter yet, unfortunately, because I've been busy and traveling, and I like to read the letter when I can start writing. So if I don't have time, because I'm going to start thinking of stuff, I'm going to start writing. So I don't want to read the letter if I don't have time to start responding and to actually do it. So I've been waiting until I can do that. Hopefully I'll be able to get to it tomorrow, although I'm traveling again. But I suppose on some level, I still sort of feel like we're talking past each other a little bit. I think that the argument from the feminists who say that we need to remain committed to leftist principles and oppose the right. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me because I just don't see things in such a binary way, and I never will now. I used to, but I don't. I just don't think there is such a thing as I don't think I mean, I keep wanting to know who we're talking about.
What, the far right?
Who are the right wing? Yeah, what is the far right? Who are these people? What does it mean to work with these people? What does it mean to ally? No, I feel like I've never gotten an answer to the question of what do you mean when you say we cannot ally with the right? And to me, I'm like, am I allying with the right? What does it
Well,
mean
they
to
talk
ally with
about,
the right? And then I
yeah.
think it's just like, okay, well, then I think that maybe I don't think it is just about abortion because obviously I am friends with and I do engage with people who are pro-life, primarily women, but probably some men too. I don't even know everyone's opinion like every person that I know and engage with. I don't know what their opinions are on abortion are. But I know for certain, like I've done panels with and I'm now friends with Michelle Evans, who I think is a wonderful woman. And I don't think she identifies as a feminist, but I think she is a feminist. She's like a very powerful pro woman activist. And I think she behaves like a feminist in her personal and her political life, but she's pro life.
Mm.
And I don't agree with her perspective on that. But, you know, to call her, to treat her as some kind of enemy to women or just as an enemy to me and my aims is just never going to be true. And
Yeah.
people who can't understand that, I don't know if I really can explain it to them.
I sort of think as well, right? Do There's only a chance of changing people's minds on abortion. And I actually think even if you were anti-abortion, if you're like, I had this conversation with a pro-lifer and I was like, look, if illegal abortion meant fewer babies were aborted, then you might have a point, right? Maybe because it's difficult without. I've had so many of these conversations. It's I think the pro-life argument is 100% right. Right? I think it's 100% right. It is awful. It is a life. It is a potential baby. It is even a baby because in some situations we would call it a baby. All those things are true. They're right. They're completely right. It might be a gift from God, whatever. They're completely right. And I still don't agree that should be illegal. And that is on the basis that they will still happen, just women will die. So even if I thought it was barbaric, whatever I think of it, it doesn't really matter because the point of a safe and legal abortion is because illegal abortions are not safe and they will still happen. So I said to someone, the only way that we know that making it more difficult for women to have abortions is a good thing, is a right thing to do, is if the rate of pregnancy goes down. Because if the same number of women get pregnant, they've either got to have a baby that they really don't want and can't afford, or they've got to have an abortion that is very, very unsafe. So I don't think it works. So even if I was thought an abortion was genuinely killing a baby and it was a barbaric, awful thing to do, making it illegal doesn't mean fewer abortions happen.
I mean, I agree with you. My perspective on abortion is a bit different, or I guess what's behind my support for um, why I think that all women should have access to abortion is that I think that the idea of forcing a woman to go through with a pregnancy that she doesn't want to go through is extremely backwards and dangerous.
Oh no, hang on. Let
And
me just say, I totally agree with you. I don't think false birth is an answer to anything. I think
yeah,
it's a terrible thing, and I think women should have 100% have the right to choose. I'm just saying
yeah.
that even from a logical point of view, if I thought the opposite side was totally right, it still isn't a logical argument to make because it doesn't reduce the number of abortions. And that must surely, it's not about making women suffer. Surely that's not what a pro life argument is. It's about reducing the number of abortions, and it doesn't do that. So, therefore, it's not logical.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what a lot of them don't understand is that abortion has been happening for all of eternity. I mean, women have always, you know, brought on miscarriage, for example, when they didn't want to have a baby or they didn't want another baby. I mean, abortion has just always happened. It wasn't something that was invented in the 70s with the feminist movement. And it wasn't always something that was like medicalized and something that happened in clinics or hospitals. Although of course those are probably the safest places to do it. I
Mm.
mean, there's other ways
We
to
both love Mary
self-abort.
Lou, and she's
Yeah.
got exceptional kind of her idea about women's centers, nothing to do with the state, I think is exactly where I am.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. So, I mean, that part I'll never get past that. In terms of my view of abortion. I've always thought that abortion was no big deal, but I'm also totally open and accepting to the people who think, you know, this is a baby and you're killing a life. I mean, it is a life. I know that it is a life. But I would also say, like, if somebody asked me, I would say outright, yes, that woman's life is more valuable than the fetus because she exists outside in the world and has for, you know, 20, 30, 40 years and has relationships and has family and has friends, and her life does have more meaning than a fetus. It's just true. Maybe
Yeah,
that sounds
100% true.
crude, but it is true.
No, I agree. I'm really, you know, I'm vociferously pro-life, pro-choice. Jeez, someone will grab that.
Totally. Got her.
I'm really, really, really like beyond pro-choice. It just is. I do think there should. I do think there should be some limits. I don't think you should be able to have an abortion at like 7.5 months or 7 months, and I don't think they happen very often. But you know, I do think that there should be limits. But I definitely think that women. I mean, look, I don't get it in America. If you're pro-life, then why don't you campaign for better maternity rights so it's easier for the woman when she actually has the bloody baby? If you're that interested in these babies being born, I don't
Yes.
understand some of that. But I know, you know, you and I probably both know pro-life people who actually do put their money where their mouth is, and they work in pregnancy sort of centers, and they genuinely help those women. So, but
Yeah.
I still think they're wrong. I still think they're wrong.
I mean, so I think that when these feminists are making these arguments about how we can't ally with the right or we can't work with the right and we have to stick with the left, I think they'll fall back on abortion, or they'll fall back on racism. And they'll say like these right wingers are racist, and, you know, feminism, we need to protect marginalized women of color. And like, obviously, I don't know. I don't understand the attachment to the left or left-wing people, because left-wing people are horribly discriminatory and bigoted and hateful. Like, why is it that, like, why do we have to do either? Why can't we just work with whoever we want to work with? And, you know, like I said, sometimes these people are going to have opinions and perspectives that I really, really disagree with, and I'll agree with them on other things. And it still doesn't mean they're bad people. Like, there's people who have opinions that I think are really wrong or bad opinions, and it doesn't make them bad, shitty, ill-intentioned people. That's what these people seem not to be able to get or accept, or they don't want to admit that is true, which is endlessly frustrating to me.
Well, it seems really weird to think that you're sitting on some sort of moral high ground by saying that you're on the left would never work with the right, when the left are literally, in the United States especially, they're slicing up, carving up children's bodies. They are putting rapists in women's prisons. They are obliterating all women's rights. I mean, what could the right do actually that is worse than that? Like, I'm not saying they can't do things equally as bad. Like, you know, if they stop all access to abortion, that's terrible. Is that as bad as butchering kids and making them infertile? You know, I don't know. I don't know that it is. I'm not saying it isn't. But I don't know for 100% that it is as bad. And
I
if
don't
it's
think it
not,
is
it's
as
certainly
bad.
equal.
And the reason that I don't think that it is as bad is that women will still be able to have abortion, even if abortion is made illegal in some states. It's not going to be illegal in all states. It's just going to be illegal in some states, or not even, you know, just more difficult to get. You know, you won't be able to do it past 6 weeks or something like that, 8 weeks. But women will still be able to have abortions. They'll still be able to get safe abortions. It'll just be harder.
Did you
and
have a
yeah,
left-wing card left? Because you've just totally given it up now.
Your
lefty
I don't
card.
think so. I think
No.
I think it's gone. I think it's fully gone. I mean, I don't know what official left-wing views I have. I don't think I have official right-wing views.
Well, are you pro-prostitution? That's a bit lefty. Pro-surrogacy,
I've never been
pro-sterilising kids.
pro-prostitution. I've always been against
Well, I don't know if you've
prostitution.
ever been on the left. I think you might have lied.
I've always been a secret conservative. I mean, I guess, yeah, like, I think that destroying kids' lives and bodies forever is worse. And I think endangering women and taking away women's sex-based rights permanently is worse
Ah,
than
I do
allowing
too.
abortion to become illegal in certain contexts in some red states. And these men, the left is so misogynist. I don't actually think the right and conservatives are all that misogynist. Of course, there's some actual misogynists on the right, like Matt Walsh, but like most of the conservative right-wing men that I've met are such wonderful gentlemen. And they really do value and respect women, like much more so than these left-wing guys.
I know.
Who think that we should be prostitutes and think that we should be in pornography and think that we should be in polyamorous relationships with them, and who refuse to step up and like work out and clean their rooms and like get a good job, and are like pasty and lazy and depressed and boring and have shitty dicks because of their antidepressants or their porn addictions and have no self-respect. Come on.
Someone said to me yesterday, so I do a live thing on a Tuesday. So they said it on Tuesday and they were like, oh, I'm worried that I'm going to be associated with the right. And I was like, but you're associated with the left.
I know.
And I'm not saying the right is a wonderful bastion of all that's great for women. I really don't think it is. I've started to talk about the constituency of women because I feel that we are a political constituency all of our own, and I don't think we belong to any male bloody dominated political sphere. I think we can do this without political parties.
Totally.
And I really do think we need to do this with women. I think this is a new women's movement that is for all women, not women that have read academic, boring kind of theory. But sorry, Megan. I didn't realize that was you.
I'm not
but but just for women who understand the experience in the world of being a woman, which, let's face it, is most women, if not all. Then there'll be hell to pay.
I mean, the women's movement is supposed to be for all women, and the women's movement, I think, was for all women when it began. I think the first wave, that was not a political movement. That was a movement for specific women's rights.
What? I was so sorry. Was it?
You are tired.
Because wasn't it just for middle-class white women? The initial women's movement.
Well, I think that they were trying to get the vote for women. It wasn't that they were just trying to get the vote for,
Yeah, but it's useful to now call them a load of racists. I'm just saying.
Of course it is. White feminism. I mean, you were being sarcastic. I didn't catch on to that. Yeah. I'm so sorry. That dry British humor. You need to spell things out for Canadians. No, that was joking. I like it too.
That was one thing I really like. That's the one thing I like about Matt Walsh, is his dry sense of humor. And I've got a friend who lives in California who's got a really, really dry sense of humor. And the cameraman, who's a proper Californian, actually had a dry sense of humor.
I mean, yeah, there's people in North America with a good sense of humor. There's a bunch. The unfortunate truth is that since we're trashing feminists, the unfortunate truth is that like these stereotypes very often play out where like there's so many feminists with no sense of humor, and you say something sarcastic and they take it as literal. And even if you tell them you were being sarcastic, which is such an embarrassing thing I shouldn't have to say, that was a joke. Joking. Like, well, I didn't get it, so I guess it's not funny. Like, is that how this works?
Yeah,
and it's like they don't believe you.
I think I'm hilarious, and then sometimes when people don't laugh, I'm like, you clearly haven't understood the joke. Because if you understood the joke, you'd have laughed because it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I refuse. But
instead, I'm having, I was joking. No, I didn't mean that. Oh. Yeah. Like when I did the picture, somebody called me a Nazi Barbie, so I found a picture of a Barbie in a Nazi uniform.
Nazi Barbie, cute.
Put it as my profile picture on Spinster. Okay. And then that keeps getting used by the trans activists. Go, look, she even used this picture. And I'm thinking, if I was an actual Nazi, would I find Barbie? Would I find a Barbie picture? Really?
I mean, I don't know these people. I don't know. They don't know any Nazis. I don't know any Nazis. Maybe they would.
Thank God they haven't found the blackface Barbie picture that I put up.
Did we ever talk about did we ever talk about what happened? Like, they all said all these people accused you of being in bed with the Proud Boys
Mm.
because
God, that
I
was
think we
fun.
did talk about that. Someone it was just
No.
it was a guy at okay. So it was a guy who asked for a photo with you, and then after the fact, somehow, I don't have any idea how, people did some digging and found that he was associated with the Proud Boys
They
or
told me on the
he
day, the trans activist told me on the day, shouting at me, that, "Oh, do you know who he is?" And I think what the truth is about him is he had beaten up some men who were attacking women, some Antifa types who had attacked women. I think that's
Oh, well,
one of
good
the
for
things that was
him.
said about him. Yeah. What a terrible man.
I don't care
Um,
if he's a Proud Boy then.
yeah.
I
Well,
don't even know what the Proud Boys are. Like, I thought the Proud Boys was a joke started by Gavin McInnes, right?
yeah, well, I
I don't they're not an influential group, so I don't the
I
hysteria and
think it's a joke.
hyperbole around them, I think, is so silly because they have no real power.
But right, let's say that the Pride Boys were started by Gavin McGuinness as a joke and a bit of a response to Antifa, right? So he's like, "Oh, we're the Pride Boys." I think it started off as a joke. Maybe there's some people who didn't realize it was a joke and are really pig sick of what's happening.
I think that's
That
true. I don't think
riots
it's a
and
joke
stuff, right?
now, if
So
Gavin
I think
McInnes is
that's
telling the truth that he started as a joke.
So we can either say that these are thugs that have just got together to go and beat the crap out of people, and those people are not very nice people, so I'm not sure that I care, or that they're just regular kind of working class men that have just had enough to see what's happening to their cities and their towns. Or they could be terrible, terrible people. I don't actually care because I don't know what these people are because you and I are white supremacist Nazis, right? Who want to kill trans people. And so if I'm talked about like that, how the hell can I ever trust anything that's said about anyone? I just can't. And
Yeah.
even if I knew that they were terrible, if he's a terrible, violent Pride Boy, like terrible, like these women pretend that they think he is, what am I going to do? Go up to him and go, "Hi, could you just leave?" I just
Yeah.
think I'm not
It's a
associated.
public space.
Yeah.
Can
I
you not
don't
stand
survive what they
there
have
on the
there.
sidewalk?
Yeah.
Thanks. I
But
mean, but also if he doesn't seem like an asshole and he's not being an asshole, then why would you ask him to leave? Like, are you gonna check
how would
for
I know who
everyone's
it was?
political beliefs who is at your event and be like, "Oh, you believe this, like, you're out." I
It's so
mean, maybe he's
nuts.
associated with the Proud Boys and he's a nice guy and some of the other Proud Boys are not nice guys. I don't know. I don't really know what they're up to, and I
I'm
certainly
not
don't
doing
know
it.
who all these individuals are.
I think the worst, the absolute worst, because obviously these women get very, very excited about being able to say horrible stuff about me. Um, and they never even pretended to watch the testimony of women. So it wasn't like they said, "Oh, there was this event and this woman did this wonderful thing and that woman did that wonderful thing and blah blah blah." But oh my God, Posey let them all down by doing this. They didn't even bother with that. They just went straight for some random made up criticism of me of anything that they could crowbar in. Um, and one of the things they did is there was a mother of a rapid onset gender dysphoria child, um, and she was talking about evil, and she gave quite a longish speech. And part of it was she used words like eradicate, and that good men will eradicate this, whatever. And an advisor to Corbyn called Lachlan Stewart and I are going to have a conversation about it because all of those women thought that I should disavow that woman. I should disavow her. I should apologize for her. I should say that I don't agree. I should disassociate myself with her. I just, I, I just sometimes think about these women and I think, do you know me at all? Because I will not do that. Women standing up in the face of violent threats and violence from men, I am never, ever, ever going to be opposed to that woman. I'm not going to make her position more weak. I'm just not going to do any of it. That is not what this is about. This is about giving women a solid place to stand and telling them that I will stand there with them. This is not about me then going, like, after one of the women did bear spray when she got spat in the face and she got pushed in the face, right? She put this sign up and she got spat in the face. And then she got a spray out because somebody else was coming at her with some spray. I got asked to disavow violence by a number of American feminists. You should, can you say that you've got nothing to do with the Proud Boys? Or can you say that you've got, that you don't like violence? Or can you say, I was like, no, I won't. That is not what this is.
It's not
That
my
is not what
job.
solidarity looks like.
And it's not my responsibility to go around saying, no, I disavow this person. I disavow this person. It's like, no, you just do what you're doing. And the people who come along can come along. It's not your responsibility.
What do they think it's going to do? If you disavow someone, if you say that you don't agree with a woman who came and defended herself,
what should she have done? Should she have just let herself be attacked?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. There's a method called non-violent protest or something, where no matter what people do, you are not even to fight back. I've distanced myself from that particular thing because there is no way I would ever ask any woman not to defend herself if she bloody well wanted to or needed to. No way. I wouldn't do it. But it's more than that. It's what's the transaction here? Like, what are you hoping to get when you go, oh, I will never have anything to do with the Proud Boys? Oh, okay. Well, we all thought you were going to, but now you've said that, we'll leave you alone.
Yeah, as if it will end there.
Just nuts.
It won't end there. I have to pee.
Okay, well, we better go. I don't think anyone wants to see that.
No. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Posey, for coming. I'm glad we were able to do this. And we'll keep everyone updated about Canada. If you would like to donate to support the documentary, it's Standing for Women /donate. Is that right?
standingforwomen.com/.
Let me just put it in the chat. I'll put it down in the notes too.
And if you want to join Megan's very small community on Patreon
to protect me from feminist bitchy comments.
So she's got a lot of money and yet none, and she's just grifting. She's just not that good at it.
I'm getting rich off of my right-wing grift, but also I'm too broke to pay for a lawyer
and her boyfriend paying for her to travel the country.
Well, somebody's gonna pay.
Canada's gonna be great, isn't it? Isn't it gonna be great?
Yeah, it's gonna be the best. They're gonna be so mad, but people are gonna be happy that we've come because there's not enough going on to fight this in Canada, and the Liberal government just thinks that they can keep pushing through whatever they like, and that they don't have to listen to what citizens are saying, what the working class are saying, what women are saying. They are far too drunk on their own power, Justin Trudeau in particular, and I just can't wait to go. I mean, part of my joy of being back on Twitter is that now I can just troll Justin Trudeau constantly, and I'm so excited to maybe do that in real life.
Well, he's doing woman face next, isn't he? Is it blackface? No,
he's doing an appearance. Yeah, he's got an appearance on Drag Race.
Even if I agreed with drag, which I absolutely hate it, but even if I thought it was all right, to have a sitting prime minister go and do a mainstream show,
it's so embarrassing.
Is nuts.
He's so embarrassing. Like, what does he think he's doing? I don't think he cares. I think he's totally drunk on his power. I think he's completely entitled, and he thinks he can just do what he thinks he's untouchable.
Right, well, you better go and pee. And what you can do while you're on the toilet is you can get the pictures of Justin and his dad.
I'll take a look. I mean, I'm pretty certain that he's Pierre Trudeau's son, but maybe I'll take a look. I mean, what do I know?
I'm never wrong.
Okay. Again, thanks everyone for coming. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and become a patron on Patreon.